Okay, we'll go ahead and get started with today's webinar, Performance Max Campaigns in 360 and what you need to know. Just a couple of things before I pass it over to Robert, our presenter. This webinar will be recorded today and sent to all attendees at the end of the webinar, so be on the lookout from an email from AdSwerve. Everyone is muted right now. However, you can ask questions in the question box. And we have Jake Bitter who will be fielding those questions as we go. And there'll also be a Q&A at the end of the webinar. So if you want to hold your questions to the end, you're welcome to, and Robert will answer them at the end. Without further ado, introduce you to Robert Cornelius, our Media Operations Specialist here at AdSwerve. He will be our presenter today and taking you through Performance Max campaigns. And Jake Bitter, our Media Operations Specialist, he will be again fielding questions in the question box. So with that, I'll pass it over to you, Robert.
Cool, thanks, Maureen. So like she said, I am Robert Cornelius. I work on the search team here at AdSwerve. And just a quick introduction to AdSwerve before we get started. We're the leading Google Marketing Analytics and Cloud partner from Google. We're the largest independent Google Marketing Platform partner, which is inclusive of the #1 provider for Search Ads 360. We're a team of about 200 plus strong industry leaders and platform experts. We work on a handful of clients that you might have heard of. So people like Chili's, Food Lion, GoPro, GoFundMe, so on and so forth. So just covering our agenda today, first we're going to talk about what you need to know first. Then we're going to move on to locating Performance Max campaigns within your SA360 account. Then we'll talk about the differences in management between Google Ads and SA360. We'll touch on some reporting features in SA360. Then we'll talk about best practices, tips, and tricks, and then we'll finish with our Q&A. So what you need to know first. Before we really talk about anything, we need to talk about the core concept of what is Performance Max. So your kind of textbook definition is that it really just is a campaign type that's housed in Google Ads. It helps maximize your performance across different ad types using automation. And the goal really there is just to help you save time and drive towards your goals. And before we really talk about anything else, we need to talk about the new SA360 interface. So it really has been updated to just have a new look and feel to it, which is probably going to look pretty familiar to a lot of people if you haven't used it already. But it also has some additional features that are now fully synced into SA360 for management. So you've got things like Performance Max that we're going to touch on. You've also got Discovery, Display, YouTube, and a handful more, in addition to some new features for Microsoft management as well. So this is a quote from our Chief of Media Solutions, Matt Fisness. And he said, "In my 14 years of partnering with Google, I've never seen such an impactful update to Google's enterprise level search platform. The new SA360 makes it easier for clients to push into new frontiers of search management." So you can see, obviously, we've been working with SA360 for a while here at AdSwerve, and this is a very impactful new update. And as we're talking about the new SA360 as well, this does extend some additional benefits to things like value-based bidding. If that's something that sounds interesting to you, we do have some additional resources on our website for this, including a webinar that was just recently done by our Chief of Search, Brent Ramos, and we'll talk about how you can locate that here at the end. Cool, so moving on to locating Performance Max campaigns within SA360. So you can see a screenshot here at the top is from the previous SA360 user interface, and then a screenshot at the bottom is from the new interface. And like I said, you'll notice that it's a pretty familiar interface look. If you haven't used it already, you'll notice that it looks very similar to Google Ads. And just navigating to that new UI, all you need to do is click this little link in the top right-hand corner of your former UI. So when you open your SA360 account, this is what you'll see. And like I said, you just need to click this little link in the top right-hand corner. It'll pull you to a page that looks like this. Again, it looks very similar to Google Ads. And then when we talk about navigating to our Performance Max campaigns, you'll just toggle down to this left-hand rail campaigns tab. add a filter for campaign type, and then you can just scroll down and select Performance Max. So this is just an account that we use at AdSwerve just kind of for demos. Obviously, you can see that we don't have any active campaigns for Performance Max running, but if we did, once you click into them, this is kind of what you would see. So again, it looks very similar to how you edit assets within Google Ads. And if you navigate down to this Asset Groups tab on the left-hand rail, you can edit any of your assets using this button. And that includes things like your images, your videos, logos, your text assets, and anything like that, as well as editing your audience signals. And if you come over here, you can manage things like settings, locations, ad schedules, etc. So now here are the differences between management in Google Ads and SA360. So you can't really talk about management in SA360 without acknowledging floodlight data. For any of those that don't know, floodlights are really just a conversion pixel that you place on your website that helps track data across GMP. So including things like SA360, CM360, DV360, and Google Analytics. And in our current state for SA360 management, again, as you start thinking about things like floodlight data tracking, you can really see your data just across channels. So across your display and your search, as well as YouTube and etc. And really the main tracking benefit there is that you can see the whole conversion path. So you can see I've pulled a screenshot here on the right from Google Analytics, and you can really see kind of where the customer starts and where they finish, rather than just seeing the finished product of, you know, a direct conversion or a display conversion. You can really see the start to finish path there. And as we look towards the future, our estimate based on historical past of other Google rollout features, we look at things like potentially being able to bid towards floodlights in SA360, which you can't currently. And that obviously opens up the door for things like value-based bidding, auction time bid adjustments, increased bidding signals, and all the additional benefits that come with SA360 bidding. Cool. Now moving on to some of the reporting features for Performance Max and SA360. So when we talk about reporting, there's, I guess, two kind of ways that you can think about it. Obviously, you have your out-of-the-box solutions that most of you will be familiar with, whether through Google Ads or through SA360. And that's obviously inclusive of your kind of predefined campaign reports, which gives you the pretty normal metrics like clicks, impressions, click-through rate, etc. The issue here with Performance Max is that it doesn't really give you any distinction between channels. So you really can't see specific performance for your traditional search, your YouTube, your display, your shopping, and things like that. But one kind of handy tip that we have found is that you can use landing page exclusions within Performance Max to help with your efficiency. And one way that you can find those is if you come to your reporting tab, and that's just up here, we go to predefined reports, basic, and I've just opened a pretty basic campaign report. If you add in add final URL here, and you filter to your specific search and or Performance Max campaigns, I pulled in search as well because again, we don't have any active Performance Max campaigns, but if you would just pull in Performance Max, and then you can see kind of your lowest performing URLs. So if you scroll down, you can see, you know, maybe this specific URL isn't performing super well. It's not generating a lot of volume. Maybe it is generating a lot of cost. So you can add that specific URL to your Performance Max campaign as an exclusion, and that can just increase your efficiency a bit there. So now that we've talked about the out-of-the-box solution, there are some additional kind of reporting workarounds that you can use that will give you kind of a high-level overview of some distinction between channels like search, video, display, and then also shopping. So again, as you navigate to your campaigns tab here on the left, you'll be able to see the kind of performance table that you're used to through SA360 and Google Ads. And I'm going to call these your all campaigns metrics. So obviously you'll see whatever columns you pull in, so impressions, interactions, interaction rate, cost, etc. And then if you navigate into your specific Performance Max campaign and you come to listing groups here on the left, this will show you your performance specifically for your shopping campaigns. So I'll call these the listing group metrics. So if you take the all campaigns metrics and then you separate out your listing group metrics, obviously you will be left with any metrics within your Performance Max campaign, excluding shopping. So while this won't really give you a distinction between specifically search, video, and display, it will kind of give you an overarching understanding of how your performance is between shopping and other campaign types that are within your Performance Max asset group. Cool. Now just touching on a couple best practices, tips, and tricks. So starting off at a pretty basic level, obviously Performance Max campaigns run very heavily on automation. And as most of you are probably familiar with Google products, they tend to optimize themselves best when they don't have a lot of constraints. So obviously this is going to be kind of, campaign specific. If you do have a specific CPC or CPL limit that you need to set, then do that. But our recommendation would be to set those as loose as possible and set as few constraints as possible, obviously where flexibility allows. And moving on, ultimately, when you look at Performance Max, it does include a lot of different assets. So you've got traditional text assets, you've got display, video assets, as well as a shopping feed if applicable. And as you start creating this, you can see that you can create your Performance Max campaign from the start without including a video. So one thing that we have noticed that a lot of our clients haven't really understood and hasn't been communicated super great from Google is that even if you don't include your own video, one will be kind of automatically generated for you by Google. And essentially what they do for this is take your display assets and kind of lump it together in sort of an old school slideshow feel where it's just rotating the images kind of slowly across the screen. So that may be beneficial for some people if you don't have any specific video assets available. But if you do, or if that's something that can be created, then we would recommend doing so and adding it to your Performance Max campaigns as soon as possible. Because obviously, using the kind of auto-generated display video that's sent from Google isn't really the best option for a lot of clients. And then moving on to integrating campaigns with your SA360. Obviously, like we've touched on, the use of floodlights within your Performance Max campaign is going to be very beneficial as we talk about, navigating and tracking things across different channels. Obviously, you can't do that without including SA360 into your lineup. So when you're just navigating and managing out of Google Ads, you don't get any of the floodlight benefits that come from using SA360. And then as we also touched on, potentially in the future, there may be the opportunity for you to start bidding towards floodlight signals, which again, you can't do within the Google Ads platform by itself. So our tip here would just be to integrate your campaigns into SA360 as soon as possible. If you're more comfortable integrating into SA360 and then still managing out of Google Ads until any additional features roll out, obviously you're welcome to do that. It doesn't really change anything in terms of your management day to day, but obviously gives you some additional options in the future if you need them. Cool. And then one trick here, obviously we kind of talked about the reporting workaround that's available, but just at a pretty basic level, Performance Max does make it a little bit more difficult to track your metrics and performance than some other campaign types. It is a bit black boxy where you just throw everything in and kind of let it run. But having said that, utilizing the reports that are available, including your predefined reports or perhaps creating a custom report, can get you a bit more granular if you just get in there and play around with them. again, it's going to be on a kind of one-to-one basis to see what works best for each person. But again, just getting in and kind of playing around with your hands in some of these custom reports and seeing what you can find, we found is the best way to kind of handle reporting with these. So it is fairly short and sweet. Again, I think the best way to manage these campaigns is just to kind of get in and start playing around with them, testing some of the features and kind of seeing what's available and what's going to work best for you moving forward. But if you do have any additional questions, or you're still interested in more information on Performance Max or just SA360 in general, we do have quite a few blogs that are available on our website. There are free resources that cover things like Performance Max, as well as a myriad of other search and SA360 related questions. And then, like I said, we do have a specific webinar on what's new in search and some other SA360 reporting features. They're available on demand on our website as well. So if you're ready to get started with SA360, you have any questions about search in general or Performance Max campaigns, you can reach out to us at contact@adswerve.com, or you can go on our website and start looking around there as well. So we're going to take some Q&A now. Obviously, you're welcome to drop them in now. And we'll give everyone just another minute or two. Oh, here we go. How to make respots that will repost. Sorry, and can you help elaborate on this a little bit? When you say how to make reposts that include conversions, do you mean in terms of reports? Reports, sorry about that. So it really is no different than pulling in any other feature here. So if it's a Google Ads conversion that you have, you just include Google Ads conversion here. If it's a specific floodlight, then that will be available here as well. So you can pull in things like floodlight revenue, floodlight text column, whatever your floodlight is actually labeled. But again, if it's a specific Google Ads conversion or just a regular conversion that is available in your Google Ads campaign, you can just type that in here on the right-hand side and it'll populate. Oh, if this is from Microsoft and Bing. Again, if it's a Google Ads conversion, you can pull it in here. If it's a different conversion type, you can pull it in using the All Conversions tab. And then I guess to finish off again, if it's a floodlight that is inclusive of information that's across any other platform, you can pull it in using that as well. So can you make custom variable adjustments for Performance Max campaigns in SA360? You can. So this is a little bit difficult because when you think about management in SA360 for your Performance Max campaigns, again, like we've talked about, you can't really bid to anything. But aside from that, making custom variable adjustments to Performance Max campaigns is no different than it would be for management of any other campaign type. So you can make custom variable adjustments that isn't inclusive of anything that has to do with bidding. But again, it acts very similarly to any other campaign type in terms of features that you can use on it aside from bidding. We've got a long one here. Will the PMAX campaigns ever be able to integrate with overall shared bid strategies in SA360? Basically, we get tons of conversion volume from our PMAX campaigns, but non-brand search is hurting a bit. will we be able to eventually join the PMAX and search campaigns into a single strategy so that we can leverage the conversion data from PMAX to improve our search efforts? So this is a question that we ourselves have had in our management, as well as some of our other clients that are using Performance Max campaigns as well. I don't want to speak for Google and say yes, that it will be able to, but I will say that based on indications that we've gotten from past updates and former new campaigns that are integrated into SA360, I would say it's likely. In terms of an actual specific date for this, I don't have one, unfortunately, because Google hasn't come out and said that it's specifically going to happen. But again, I would say it's very likely. I would imagine it wouldn't be in the too distant future. But again, in terms of a specific timeline, unfortunately, I just don't really have one. Other plans for additional insights to be generated for Performance Max campaigns in the UI. Again, I don't want to speak for Google and say yes or no, but as we've seen from the initial launch of Performance Max to where we are in its current state, they already have made some additional updates. Obviously, the integration from just being in Google Ads to SA360 is a pretty large update. So based on that, I would assume that they will start rolling out some additional features and some additional insights that are going to be generated in terms of reporting from your Performance Max campaigns. Kind of similar to the last question, I don't really have a specific timeline for that, but I would say that it's quite likely that in the future, the kind of reporting insights that you can gather from Performance Max campaigns should be evolving a little bit further than what they are now. Are there scenarios where Performance Max is not recommended? Let's see. So I would say, I guess initially, if you don't have video assets, display assets that you're confident in and that are specifically pertinent to whatever text and keyword assets that you are running, then it wouldn't make sense to just throw in, some overarching, non-applicable, non-specific display assets just in order to have a Performance Max campaign. And perhaps if you're seeing really good performance from your smart shopping campaigns, it may make sense to do some testing. In the future, we are going to see a mandatory migration from smart shopping to Performance Max campaigns from Google. They haven't really given a hard cutoff date as to when that will be. But obviously for a lot of clients, Q4 is a pretty large driver of yearly revenue. So maybe it makes sense for people to start navigating after that. So again, that might be a specific scenario where Performance Max isn't really recommended until after you get past your high season, if you will. Again, or if you don't have any specific assets that you're super confident in. Can you speak to discrepancies in conversion data between Google and SA360 and Performance Max? So it'll be a little bit tough to speak to them specifically if you are experiencing them, obviously because I haven't seen them. But as we talk about reporting and conversion data between like Google Ads and SA360, it's fairly normal to have a small margin of differences there. I don't know, maybe up to like 5% in differences. Now, again, it may be a large discrepancy there that you're seeing. If that's the case, then I would recommend that you maybe reach out to your SA360 or Google Ads representative If you don't have one of those, then maybe reach out in the chat function. But a small discrepancy in conversion data probably should be expected between Google Ads and SA360.
All right, well, if that's all the questions we have for today, we can wait just maybe another minute and go ahead and wrap up. Thanks for answering questions. Oh, we got one more. Awesome.
More. Can you build and edit Performance Max campaigns in Google Ads Editor? So kind of similar to, I guess, the past few questions. Right now, you can't edit them within Editor. In the future, if that's something that Google wants to include, they may. But I think based on the display, video, possibly shopping if applicable, assets, you can't edit all the assets, but you can edit text assets and things like that within Google Ads Editor. So I guess the answer is yes and no. You can edit some assets, but not all of them. And then in terms of building from scratch, you can't, because you do have to include display assets as well. Sorry, Marie, maybe that was the last one.
No problem. Love these great questions. Maybe just give it another minute in case another one comes in.
Sure. And thank you, Elaine. I'm glad you got lots of good information out of it.
All right, well, I think we can go ahead and wrap up for today. If anyone has any additional questions, you can, of course, reach out to us at contact@adswerve.com. Just a reminder, we will be sending the recorded webinar out following the webinar, so be on the lookout from that from AdSwerve. And with that, we thank you for your time today. Thank you, Robert.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Take care.